Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to start by saying I hope everybody had a great holiday season and a Happy New Year. So today's training session, Lunch and Learn, is going to be covering preparing for and managing a testing round. So when you're preparing for a round of testing, the things that you're going to want to do is, of course, first determine which scripts you want to run for your round of testing. Audit those scripts to make sure that they are all correct. Confirm that the usernames and passwords that are set up for your organization are current and correct. Create a backup version of each of these scenarios that you're going to be using for your round of testing. Also create an offline copy of them. And then how to prepare your room for your round of testing. So when you're determining which scenarios you want to run for testing, you'll want to look at the different financial classes, insurance types, patient types, services and sub-services, transitions, vendors, and positions that you need to cover for that round of testing. The best way to do this is by using the scenario script coverage report, which can be found from reports in TransIT. And so what this is going to do is it's going to look at all of your scenarios and determine which financial classes, insurance types, patient types, services, subservice, and transitions are covered in each of those scenarios. So this can help you to determine which ones will best cover what you need to cover for your particular round of testing. In order to take advantage of this report, you need to make sure that all of this information is properly added to your header. So that's why it's really important to have a complete header documented before your round of testing. Once you've done that, the next step is going to be to look at these scenarios that you determine you're going to use. So you want to look at the scenarios to make sure that there's positions selected for each step, that all of the days are in the correct order inside your scenario, that there's no tasks inside your scenarios that have no steps attached to them, that all of the headers are up to date, and that all of the details fields have been completed. So in order to make sure that your scenarios are clean, you can use the scenario build audit, which is what we're looking at here. So this is an example from our demonstration organization. So what this report is currently telling you, the first icon that you can see here, this note goes along with it. So this is saying that task number 114257 is used inside this scenario number 1 and that it has no steps that are attached to it. So what you'll need to do is go inside the task and make sure that you add a step and remove that task from your scenario. So the next options you can see from here are all these blue links. All of these blue links are showing you spots where there are tasks and workflows inside a scenario that does not have a position selected for them. So you can use these links to go inside the scenario and select the appropriate position for those steps. It often seems like when you do have these errors in your report that there's a lot that you need to do. But for the most part, what happens is you go in to add a particular workflow and forget to select a position. So a lot of the time, the positions that are missing are all in a row, and so it really doesn't take too much time using the black arrows to select the appropriate position. And the last thing that this report is going to show you is anywhere in a scenario where there's days that are out of order. So of course, you want to make sure that your scenario is all in order before you go adding it to your test dashboard to execute for testing. So the next thing you'll want to do is you'll want to do a visual review of all of the scenario headers that you're going to be using for testing. This is particularly important if you are taking advantage of the dynamic functionality between using the scenario header to pull that information into your scenarios. So the key things that you're going to want to look at when you're looking at the header is to make sure if you decide to use a different patient name from one round testing to the next, to make sure that the patient name is correct. If there is an old MRN number in there, you want to make sure that you blank that out, and same with VIN numbers, things like that. So you want to make sure that's all cleaned up before you add it to the round of testing. The next thing you'll want to do is visually review your scenario steps. And what you'll want to do when you do this is use the Control and F function and look for any spot where there's a details inside brackets to look for spots where you haven't completed the details, because you want to make sure that all of the details fields are completed as they need to be. The next thing you'll want to do is look at all of the usernames and passwords. So anyone who has admin privileges within TransIT will be able to look at this from the org settings. So the easiest way to look would be to filter on the specific vendor that you're wanting to look at the usernames and passwords for. So if you see just a one-off spot where you need to update the username and password, you can simply just click on the link here and update the information. But if you're noticing that there's a large number of usernames and passwords that need to be updated, what you'll want to do is you'll want to download the spreadsheet using this link here. And then once you've made the updates, you'll want to upload the spreadsheet. Once you've downloaded the spreadsheet, it's going to look something like this. The only column that you need to focus on in this spreadsheet is the login column to update whatever you need from the login column, and then you will upload the spreadsheet. So you'll search for your file inside your computer, and then you'll click upload, and that will update the username and password for everything that you've changed, and that will automatically update everything inside your scenarios as well. The next thing you want to do is you want to make a backup copy of all of your scenarios. The way that you would do this is you would click the copy link beside the scenario that you want to copy. And what that's going to do is that's going to copy your scenario in its entirety. So all steps, all details, everything. And then what you can do is type backup beside the name of the scenario. So keep your scenario name and then type backup beside it. And then we recommend grouping your scenario numbers together. So let's say for your next round of testing, all scenarios are in the 9,000s, whatever number you determine is correct. And then what you'll do once you've created your backup copy is you'll inactivate it. And what that does is anytime you inactivate a scenario, it puts it to the inactive list. So it doesn't delete it, it just sends it to the inactive list of scenarios. So this way it doesn't take away from your bank of the number of scenarios that you're licensed to have, but it has a backup version that if you need to reactivate later, you can reactivate it at any time. So the next thing you're going to want to do is create an offline version of your scripts. So this will be done using, if you click reports here, and then click scenario scripts, it's going to bring you to the scenario scripts report, and it's going to list out all of your scenarios for you. So you'll click the uncheck box beside the scenarios that you want to generate, and then click generate. And what that's going to do is it's going to generate all scripts inside a single Excel spreadsheet. So you can see that 2 tabs were created for each of the different scenarios. The first tab is going to be the header for that scenario. Then the next tab is going to be the individual steps for all of the scenarios. So you can either print out a copy of this or you can save a hard copy to your computer, whatever you'd like. So the next thing would be to prepare a room for your round of testing. So some organizations allow their employees to execute testing from their desks. But even if that's the case, we recommend that you always have a single room set up as your testing room. And this gives all of the employees a spot where they can check in at the beginning, at the end of the day, to make sure that everybody's on the same page when it comes to testing. So in this room, you're going to want to have a projector to show the dashboard at the front of the room. You're going to want to print out copies of either the TransIT Testing Quick Start Guide, which can be found under reports and training manuals, or if your organization has generated something yourself, you'll want something printed out that people can take and see what the expectations is for the day. You'll also want to make sure that there's printers that are in the room for anywhere in a scenario that the output that's generated is something printing to a printer. You want to make sure that you can validate that the document that was supposed to print does in fact print. And then the last thing is you'll want to make sure that there's a landline or a conference line that people can call into if they have questions or if they need to touch base. So things to do during the round testing. We recommend that you project the dashboard in that main testing room. You'll want to make sure that if you're someone who is responsible for multiple positions, that you're monitoring your position dashboard. Monitor your interface dashboard, review and assign all of the test notes that are flagged, and review and assign all of the issues. So for the room that you have set up for testing, you'll want to display the dashboard at the front of the room. We always recommend that you have your dashboard set and have auto refresh turned on. And what that does is it refreshes the screen every 5 minutes. This duration can be changed if you'd like, but we recommend starting at 5 and seeing how that works for you. And this is the best way to have a good idea of where you're at with that particular day of testing, and have it set so that as a scenario is complete for the day, that it falls off of the view here. So this gives you the completion of everything, but it also gives you a visual cue along the left-hand side here. So if there's any scenarios that are falling behind, you'll see a little yellow yield symbol on the left-hand side. And this indicates to you that you're at least 50% of the way through the day, but you're not 50% of the way through your scenario. So just a visual cue that you need to touch base with the teams to see why they're slowing down. So for the position dashboard, if you are someone who is responsible for monitoring more than one position, it's good to have the position dashboard set up for all of the positions that you are responsible for. And then this you would manually refresh using your browser refresh. And so this gives you an idea of how many steps each position has per scenario for the day. And so it's good to review so that you know when your positions no longer have any steps for the day, so you know that you're done for the day. So the interface dashboard is important to check if you are using the interface features inside TransIT. So we recommend using the refresh set at about 30 minutes. So by default, the interface dashboard is set to show by interface, but you also have the option of displaying the interface dashboard by scenario or by transaction type. So when notes are flagged from rounds of testing, they're going to end up on your test report. So it's important to make sure that whoever is your testing coordinator or whoever is responsible for that particular round of testing, that they're monitoring the test report to make sure that the notes that are being flagged are being looked at right away. So we'd recommend that in the status column here that you click on new, and then make sure that you're looking at those notes. So if it's something that should be assigned to a particular team, you're going to want to click the edit here, assign it to the team that it's assigned to, and then set the status to be reviewed. If it's something that needs to be turned into an issue, you'll want to do the same thing. So edit it, but then change it to be addressed and create an issue from it. And that moves it from it closes it on the test report and then moves it over to the issue list, which is where it can be followed from there. So if you want a visual idea of where things are at, you can use the summary, so the summary chart icon, and this gives you a visual of where you're at. So if you have sometimes by accident, you'll forget to select new as the note status. It should default in, but sometimes it accidentally gets removed. So by running this, you can see that there is one, in this example here, there's one note that has undefined as a status. So you want to make sure that you figure out which note this is. So you can either export it into Excel or figure out from your test report which the note is that has no status assigned to it, and you'll want to change that to either new or assign it out to someone, marking it addressed, or change it into an issue. So looking at the issue, so even if your organization uses an external tracking system to track all of the issues rather than doing it inside TransIT, you do want to make sure that you work through the issues that have been flagged inside TransIT. So what some clients have decided to do is have a issue status of exported. And so when they come across an issue inside TransIT, they'll change the status to be exported to show that it's been exported to that external system. And if you're working it through inside TransIT, you want to make sure that anytime that an issue has been addressed, that it's been closed after. So like note types, the issues can also, they should automatically be set to open, but sometimes that can be blanked out accidentally. Sometimes people forget to select the type and the priority. So this chart gives you an idea of where all of the issues are at based on the status, the type, and the priority. So things to do after a round of testing. The person who is your testing coordinator or in charge of the round of testing is going to want to make sure that they continue to monitor the test notes, continue to monitor the issues, and then at the end, they'll want to inactivate that round of testing. So again, by using the test summary, so summary chart icon, you can get a visual of where all of the test notes are at. So you'll want to make sure that everything does end up getting addressed. So when you're working through your test notes, the two links that are most important are going to be this view scenario link and then the task link. So if the note that's made here is something that needs to be changed within the scenario, so let's say it's the wrong position that was selected, or there's a workflow that needs to be moved, or tasks that need to be added, something to that effect, that's something that you're going to want to do at the scenario level. So if you click view scenario, it's going to take you inside that scenario. So inside scenario number 1, you can make the changes that you need to make to the scenario. And then you'll click the test report icon here, and it's going to bring you back here. You'll click edit, and then you'll be able to mark the status as addressed. If it's something at the task level that needs to be changed, so for example, this particular task says scan user identification badge. Let's say you want the action instead to say scan user ID. If you were to click task here, it's going to take you directly inside task number 113087. You can change the action to say whatever it is that you want to say, and then click save and click back on this icon here. That's going to bring you back to your test report, and again, click edit and mark it as addressed. So when it comes to looking at the issue list, so the issues can either be looked at from the test report or from the issue list if you only want to be looking directly at the issues. We recommend that when you come and look at the issue list that you click the updated sort option, so you can track to see where issues are at. So you want to make sure that issues are moving forward, and if there's anything that seems way out of date, you want to touch base with that team to make sure that the issue does get addressed. So once everything for your round of testing has been updated and you're completely done with that round of testing, what you're going to want to do is inactivate it. So you'll click the trash can icon here, which will inactivate your round of testing, which will move it to the inactive list of rounds of testing. And just like anywhere else in TransIT, once something's been inactivated, you can click into this icon here, which shows you the inactive list, and you can still access the previous round of testing, or you can restore it if you do need to restore a round of testing. So I did mute everybody while they were joining in just so that there wouldn't be any interruptions. But are there any, so I'm just letting you know that you are muted right now. So if there's any questions, you'll just need to unmute yourself before asking. Are there any questions about what I covered today? Okay, So if not, I'm going to turn it over to John, and he is going to just take a minute of your time to talk about TransIT Obscure. John? John, you're muted. I don't know if you know that.
Okay, am I still muted or am I on?
You're good now, John. Sorry.
Okay, no, that's fine. Good afternoon, everybody. My name's John Schott, and I just wanted to let everybody know that we've got a Scrambler tool that lets you use actual patient data in testing environments without jeopardizing protected healthcare information. So TransIT Obscure takes PHI data and renders it unreadable, thus removing the concern for seeing patient activity details in a training or testing domain. You get to decide which fields are obscured: the patient name, address, insurance information, social security numbers, and use actual data for your testing or training rounds in the non-production domain. This gives you the benefit of a lot more accuracy without the time taking to fill in the fields and actually create records for your round of testing or training. If you've got any questions or interest about the Scrambler tool, don't hesitate to give us a shout at sales@makeSolutionsInc.com, and would be very happy to talk to you more about this. I did want to let everybody know that this is Cerner specific right now. So if there's any of you that have TransIT but aren't using Cerner, then we'll need to talk a little more about that. But regardless, just wanted to let you know that this is available and can help save you a lot of time, and it's a good tool. Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you, John. So unless there's any other questions, we can sign off for now. So thank you, everybody, for joining today. And I hope you all have a great day.